Hey everyone, this is Dan Crowley with a short video for you about how to create a pro forma statement for 2024. We're going to start with the basics and talk about it being defined. We're going to talk about the purpose of it and the components and data collection. We're also going to talk about what it means to do sales projections and expense estimations. And lastly, creating the pro forma and reviewing and adjusting it. It will come with a short video on Excel to show you the details. So defined, it's essentially, this is a financial statement that outlines the projected income and expenses and profits for next year. So financial forecast. The purpose of this is it helps you make informed decisions by providing a clear picture of your future. It's very useful for budgeting, securing financing, and setting financial goals and meeting them. And so right now, the components we're going to talk about today are revenue. So we'll look at both the event and equipment industries and talk about where you're going to find that information. Typically look at the past couple of years. Then you're going to see if there's cyclical or seasonality in your business, in your region. And lastly, we'll look at industry happenings, which includes what's happened with supply chain and used equipment pricing this year for the equipment side. We'll also look at economic outlook and identify lead indicators that might drive your pro forma up or down going into next year. Equipment rental, you're going to look at housing, commercial building, and architectural billing. If you're on the event rental side, you're going to look at the general economy, consumer, corporate, and institutional. And if you don't understand what part of your business comes from each of those three segments, that's one thing you can work on prior to establishing your pro forma. Last, we'll look at categories of assets, and these are equipment rental. We're looking at lifts versus tools, looking at heavy earth-moving equipment versus small tools. Event rental, we'll be looking at tents versus events, okay? So after looking at revenue, you're going to look at your gross profit and say, okay, on the cost side, what changes? Calculate the difference between the revenue and the direct costs to get your gross profit. And direct costs are variable, so focus on what the percentage is going to be. Is it going to be the same percent as previous year? Are you going to be looking at PEG medians? Are you going to look at Top Gun? What do you want to set as a direct cost increase as a percentage? Then you'll get into expenses, which are really broken into fixed, semi-fixed, and variable. So in those, you can look at some big categories. Personnel is 50% of all expense, minimally, the way that we look at it, but in both industries. Occupancy is going to be a significant amount of your overhead, and we'll talk about that, as well as operations, which you guys may recall we break into marketing, professional, administrative, and vehicles and other elements like that in education. So what did you spend last year? And then based on your planned growth, do these expenses, are they going to act fixed and not go up, or are they going to move up and be variable with your sales growth? So that's something to consider for each of them. Lastly, you want to take notes in each section. So I would say put like a blank next to your chart of accounts, plan out your growth, and write notes in each section. And that will get you to the point where you've got something, and then you want to review and adjust afterwards. So you want to look at each of those items and talk about them with your leadership team until you're comfortable that this is your most likely case scenario. Now, you also want to consider, what if things don't go as planned? Now, that could be things might get better or things might not go as well. So I always like to do a best case, which looks at, hey, the sales are going to grow, GP increases, and or expenses decrease more so than expected. So what does that look like? What would be the best case scenario? Worst case would be sales plummet or they stay flat, GP decreases, or expenses go up, and what would that look like? So a lot of people had that happen to them last year. Many of you went into the year planning for 8 to 10% growth and ended up with negative numbers or flat. So significant change to your operation. We would also suggest that what you do is once you have that established, review it every quarter. You may change it if you'd like. Some people don't like to do that. Some people do. I would say you'd want to revise it at least semi-annually to get it tighter, a little closer. You can reach out to myself or Charlie Peterson, and we can help you with that. And we're going to go to an example video now so you can see that.